Alison's here with the newspapers today. She's starting, in fact, here in France. This is a much-awaited new climate bill. It's being presented by the government today. Papers are not really very impressed.
They are not, Stuart. Now, this is the bill that has come out of the Citizens Climate Convention, which you might remember was this group of 150 randomly selected citizens here in France who were put together to come up with proposals on the climate for the government. 20 Minutes writes that the participants are green with frustration over this bill. The president of the Citizens Convention told the paper that it really waters down most of their suggestions. She cites the example of renovating buildings to make them more energy efficient, which they wanted to be made mandatory. Instead, it's just here as a recommendation. Meanwhile, France's left-wing papers are denouncing the influence of lobbyists in this bill. Libération writes that the so-called climate and resilience bill turned out to be not so resilient when faced with attacks from lobbying groups who were terrified by the idea that things are going to have to change. France's communist paper L'Humanité is expressing similar frustration. But hey, they say the lobbyists are just doing their jobs. The problem is that the government is listening to them. L'Humanité's front page here, their headline translates to the melting of ambitions, and it's coupled with that photo of Emmanuel Macron at Mont Blanc, a reminder that its glaciers are melting right along with Macron's melting ambitions.
You have found one paper that is defending the French president. It's the financial paper, though, isn't it?
That's right, the financial paper. Probably not a surprise when you hear the criticisms from some of the other papers. Les Echos accuses environmental groups of shooting on sight, basically judging too quickly about this bill. The paper does say that Emmanuel Macron sort of asked for it by putting in place this convention in the first place and promising to accept all of the propositions without changes. Still, for Les Echos, there's nothing dishonorable about the fact that the government has made compromises. The paper writes, those who are judging the glass as three-quarters empty are ignoring the fact that France is facing an unprecedented economic and health crisis.
Let's stay here in France for this next story. Papers also reporting that the director of the elite university here in Paris, Sciences Po, has resigned. Now, it's the latest fallout. This is from an incest scandal regarding a very prominent political scientist here.
That's right. Now, some of our viewers might have heard of Sciences Po. It's a very prominent French university. It has a lot of international students. The now former president, Frédéric Millon, was a protege of Olivier Duhamel. Now, he is the prominent political scientist who was accused of sexually abusing his stepson in a case that has really sparked a second Me Too movement here in France over incest. Duhamel was a professor at Sciences Po, and Le Monde writes that the president of the university stepped down after it was revealed that he learned about the accusations against Duhamel 2 years ago, actually, and he hadn't done anything about it. Meanwhile, Libération published stories from a dozen students at the Bordeaux campus of Sciences Po who said that they were raped or sexually assaulted during their time in school. The paper reports that that many current and former Sciences Po students are now sharing their stories and denouncing the elite institution's rape culture under the hashtag Sciences Po or Sciences Pigs.
Here in France, we did see some negative reaction to the Me Too movement, and there's an article in the New York Times today looking into France's resistance to what some see as woke American culture.
That's right, Stuart. This is a really interesting article for anyone who's been following sort of the culture war between French intellectuals and politicians and the American media. New York Times reporter Norimitsu Onishi explores claims from French politicians and prominent intellectuals who say that progressive American ideas, specifically ideas about race, gender, and post-colonialism, are undermining their society. He also explores responses to these complaints that he notes do come largely from a group of aging white males. One professor responding to these complaints said it's the sign of a small, frightened republic that is declining. Ouch. Anyway, it's a really interesting article, but complex to summarize, so if this kind of thing interests you, do check it out.
Finally from Alison, the story that we've all been laughing about all morning. We talked about it on air a couple of hours ago. This is a Zoom mishap. Turned a lawyer into a kitten.
That's right, Stuart. I am dedicating my day to spreading the gospel about this story for anyone who hasn't seen this video. As we read in the New York Times, this incident involved a lawyer in Texas who accidentally added a cat filter to his Zoom call during a hearing. The resulting video became an instant classic. Let's watch it again.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take
we're
a
trying
look.
to, can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. It's not that I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat.
It
doesn't get old. I don't know how many times I've watched it now. Anyway, the New York Times actually spoke to this lawyer. His name is Rod Ponton. He said, if I could make the country chuckle for a moment in these difficult times, well, I'm happy to let them do it at my expense, which I think is very nice sentiment. We're certainly grateful to him here at France 24. And a lot of people are actually saying that they would hire a kitten lawyer without any pause for thought.
Very nice. You know what the lawyer was committing there?
What?
Perjury.
That's catastrophic.
Catastrophic. Thank you very much, Stephen. That's enough. Okay, that's enough. Very nice video, though. Thank you very much. In the next half hour, we investigate Mali's students' organisation, coming back down to earth. Investigate because it's known as rather a murky, at times underground operation full of infighting. In fact, 7 Malian students have actually died in fights in the last decade. It's in the next half hour.